Welcome back to the 18th episode of the Employee to Boss podcast. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst. I am the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Today, I have a Back to Basics episode with Liz Boer. She is a marketing and sales funnel coach, and we talk all about lead generation, sales funnels, writing your sales page, which that's a valuable part of this episode, and also how to set up your necessary funnels. I invited Liz onto the show because of her experience. She used to work for huge agencies that were working with huge companies running million-dollar campaigns, and she really saw a gap in the entrepreneurial space for women specifically who are creators and passionate about a service or product that they offer, but they're not really sure how to promote their business. Liz has a military spouse, so they move around a lot, and because of that, a typical 9-to-5 was not going to work with her and her lifestyle. So she started on her own, working with clients who needed her services. We talk a lot about how to be consistent on autopilot, meaning setting up your business in a way that you can take days off. I share a little bit about my journey with my automations and how when I first started my business, I did not have any automations, and that really made it hard to take time off. If I was running late on something, it just wouldn't get done. And so this is super valuable to set up those important sales funnels. We also talk about the one sales funnel that every business needs, the lead generation funnel. So if you're new to business or are looking for a way to make your life a little bit easier, definitely this is the episode for you. Connect with Liz. All of her links are in the show notes, and message me if you have any questions about anything we talk about. I love hearing from my listeners. It literally makes my day. So let's get right into this episode. Today I'm speaking with Liz Boer. I am so excited for this conversation because there are just so many needs when you're starting your business when it comes to sales and marketing, and Liz is the expert in this. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Haley. I'm excited to be here, and this is going to be a really fun conversation.
Yes, I'm very excited. So tell us, how did you get started?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the long and short of it is, I started my initial career out of college, out of university, working in corporate. So I was working for some well-known big brands on the agency side. So I was working for some large-scale media agencies, working with some amazing brands, Ford Motor Company, Stitch Fix, Hulu, Fabletics. And so I had the opportunity to get in from the ground up, really working with some $1 million campaigns, right? Like they're not spending $1,000 on ad campaigns, they're spending millions of dollars. And so it was really exciting to be able to kind of just see from a bird's eye view what these brands were doing with their marketing strategy, how they were kind of deploying their marketing dollars. And then I, started to see a big gap in the entrepreneurial space for women specifically, women that were creatives, that were creators, that were passionate about a product or their particular craft. But they weren't really necessarily sure how to market it. And so that's really kind of where I started and really what kind of got the ball rolling in terms of, going off on my own. My husband's also active duty military, so we move every 3 years. And so for me, a traditional corporate job where you kind of, jump around maybe within your particular city or work for one brand for a long time wasn't really practical. And so thankfully, entrepreneurship wasn't necessarily anything that I ever thought I would start or do, but I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I've had to work with some startup companies creating their, first course or getting their marketing strategy started, all the way up to some really well-known brands that you and I both know and love. So it's been a fun ride, and, we're only getting started. And so I'm really excited to see where we go.
that's so cool that you started off with these big companies in corporate and were loving it, but you saw it wasn't really fitting your lifestyle. So you had the confidence and the courage to go out on your own. And I think that what holds a lot of people back is the thought about getting clients, because it makes sense for agencies and big corporations to hire other agencies and big corporations rather than an entrepreneur. But the world around that is really, really changing. So can you talk a little bit to how you're getting your clients, especially the well-known ones?
Yeah, and I'll touch on that in a second, but I also just want to say for those listening that might be, thinking about starting either on the side or maybe potentially leaving a 9 to 5. When I went off on my own, it was really scary. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was scary. I was thankful enough to, start with a couple clients and on the side while I was working in a 9 to 5, but it's still really scary. You're not backed by a big company. You're kind of just, starting from scratch, but it's, totally doable if you're willing to put the work in, and all of that hard work, time and energy that you're using and putting into a 9 to 5. If you just transfer that and put it into, your own business, your own company, your own growth, then there's really, a limitless potential that you have the opportunity to reach. So I just wanted to say that for those that might be, listening and thinking like, oh, so confident and courageous. Yes, you have to have those things, but we also, we had to take a little bit of a leap of faith and, kind of quote unquote, feel the scary, but do it anyway.
Oh, definitely. Thanks so much for sharing that, because I feel like that's a big part. It is scary, but if it's where you see your life going, like, take that leap, trust yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So going back to your question about where I'm getting clients, for me, I have always believed in setting up my structures and systems to scale. So for me, lead generation is a big part of my marketing strategy. And for me, I have a couple funnels in place that help me to attract and gain potential customers, and also people that might be just interested in learning more from me, or, just having an inside view, being on my email list, or, a subscriber of mine, they get an inside view of what's going on with the company, and, case studies and things that I share specifically based on the success and the do's and don'ts of marketing. So a lead generation funnel is definitely something that I have in place. And that's, a key component of starting to build your brand and build your credibility and build that loyal following that a lot of people are looking for. So lead generation is a big piece of that. And I would say that because I have these funnels in place, I can now create my content strategy around those pieces. For most online businesses, we are focused on 3 things, right? Visibility and engagement, lead generation, and sales. We had to make some money. So those 3 key pieces are where the content that I create comes from. One of those 3 buckets is where I pull content from. And it helps me to focus, but also to know that I am strategically and intentionally sharing content that will either drive visibility, it will either drive lead generation, so getting people at the top of my funnel, into my funnel. That might be good for podcast listeners, they might be good for, lower end courses, or they might be right for our done for you services. And then that sales, that last piece where we make some money, is the sales content. And that is obviously a big piece of marketing strategy and my personal strategy as well. But that's where I am able to write emails from, pull content from, and share on social media, whether it be posts, stories, reels. I'm making sure that I'm pulling from one of those 3 buckets, depending on the season of business that we are in. If I'm focused on visibility and engagement, if I'm focused on lead generation, or I'm focused on sales for the moment. I know where the content needs to be pulled from.
It's very organized before you go into your sales, right? And so before you started bringing on clients, was that something that you focused on? Like before you launched your business, before you really got visible and started your podcast, were you setting up those sales funnels beforehand?
Absolutely. And that's where, why I really say that setting yourself up for scale is really important, even from day one, because, as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, you're wearing so many hats. You're trying to write your email copy. You're trying to post on social media. You're trying to get clients. You're trying to fill your lead generation bucket up. You're trying to do your financials, right? Like there's so many hats that we have to wear when we are first starting out. And if we can set some of these automated systems up, it alleviates us from having to do a lot of the manual processes. For example, an onboarding workflow for new clients. Once I schedule a discovery call with them, we book, they sign their contract, they pay their invoice, they immediately get put into an onboarding workflow that automatically sends them emails that helps me to feel like I am serving my clients at a very high level without having to manually type out every single email. And I'm sure you've talked about it here before. And that's, really the importance of niching down, because then we can set up these systems and have, a custom but templatized workflow that feels really personal, but isn't necessarily taking all of your time, in those first few critical weeks, especially for, service-based businesses. We want to produce and welcome our customers in those first few weeks of signing them. But it's also, we're trying to make more sales. We're trying to fill our lead generation buckets up. We're trying to do all those things that we already talked about. And if we can have some automated workflows, it helps to kind of alleviate all of the time, energy, and even resources. If you are starting to hire a team or whatnot, those resources that can be distributed and delegated without you personally having to, work 40 hours every single day.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're listening and wondering, like, do I need these workflows? Do I need to automate everything? I want to share a story that happened to me just a couple months ago. When I started my business, I was just, things were happening so fast. I didn't know if my business was going to take off. I didn't even know if I wanted to have a business. I was laid off during COVID. Crazy things were happening, and I just was looking for something to do in my free time. So I set up no sales funnels. I set up no funnels at all, no automations. It was just me doing everything. And now I'm at the point where my business is growing and I don't have time to do all of those step by step. So a couple months ago, I had to step back, not take on any more clients for a whole month, and set up all of those automations and set up all of those funnels and really figure out the backside of my business, which of course affected my income. But in the long run, it was so important to set those up. And I wish I did it at an earlier time, like Liz is saying.
Yeah, that's a great example and a story that I hear often. So you're not alone in that, but good for you for taking a step back from your business and realizing the importance of those funnels so that you can scale. Right now, you probably feel so much more confident and able in your sales calls, or when you're showing up on social, because you know that you can support a higher workload. And so those systems, they not only support us on the back end, but they help us feel confident moving forward and scaling our businesses, because we know we have that support from a tech side and an automation side working for us around the clock. So we don't feel like we can't take a day off, or we always have to be like 24/7 emailing or onboarding someone or having a sales call. So I really love that you did that.
And
something
I love relaxing, so it was important.
Yeah, right. And something else that is important as we're talking about some of these workflows is that they don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be, really long, like 20 cell. They don't have to be like 20 emails long. For a prospecting workflow, it could just be maybe 5 emails. You're emailing them right after you get off the phone with you. You're sending them a contract or a proposal, and then you're following up with them, a few more times to just nudge them to say, hey, reminder that this, proposal expires, or a reminder, just wanted to check in with you to see if you had any more questions, right? Like just those few emails really helps to remove space in your brain so that that, hey, these emails are getting sent out to my prospects while I'm doing other things in my business.
Yeah, totally. And so to break this down a little bit more, and before we get into marketing funnels that every business needs, I want to talk about like the actual programs that you use, because there's so many out there. I personally use ConvertKit for all of my emails to keep everyone in order. And when a new person comes into my email list, I can categorize them. So that's a big thing with being sure you have everyone in the right order, especially when you're starting off, because you're going to have so many prospecting clients and maybe you're signing just a few of them. So you want to make sure they're in the right categories. What do you use for all of the processes?
Yeah, so I use a few tools, and for anyone that is looking to kind of weigh the pros and cons of different tools, I have a resource. If you want, I can share. It's just lizboer.com/tools. It gives all the tools that I use. But for email marketing specifically, which is what ConvertKit is, I use ConvertKit as well. I love ConvertKit. I work primarily with online coaches, some service providers, a lot of people that have online courses or digital membership products. So for those folks, there's 3 that are most popular. ConvertKit is definitely one of them. ActiveCampaign is really popular as well. Flowdesk is kind of rising through the ranks, but I will caution those people, there's a little bit limitation with segmentation or categorizing, as you were just explaining. So each of them have their own nuances, and you really just have to decide which one is going to be best for you for the long haul. A lot of them will give you free trials, and ConvertKit, I believe they still do the free up to 1,000 subscribers. So you kind of just have to look at your business and look at where you want to go, and then kind of just pick one. I also use Kajabi a lot for my coaches and course creators. Kajabi is an all-in-one platform. So what that means is they have things like a sales page that you can create right within Kajabi. You can have all of your email automations right within Kajabi as well. And you can have your student portal, your course products or your offers in there as well. And for service providers, you could set up your products in there too.
They have a podcasting platform too now.
And they just launched a podcasting platform. Yeah. So they have podcast capabilities as well, which is really great for those that have Kajabi. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you're looking for an all-in-one that you don't want to have separate, email service provider with your student portal or where your offers and courses are, that could be a great option for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing those. I'll link your site down in the show notes for the tools that you recommend. And so I would love to talk about the one marketing funnel that every business needs, because it's confusing. There can be so many that you want, so many ideas that you have, but which ones do you actually need?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I would say the first and foremost one is one that we already touched on, that lead generation funnel. And Haley, that's because you have the option of marketing to people after they raise their hand and say, hey, Liz, hey, Haley, I am interested in what you're offering. I want to know more. And it gives us the opportunity to potentially sell or upsell some products inside of that funnel. But it's a more casual and personalized way to bring in your leads, bring in your prospects into your sphere of influence, And what I really love about this type of funnel is that you can also build a stronger connection with your potential customers than you could on social media, or than you could, even with a podcast. So it's a really great potential for long-term and for making sales inside of that lead generation funnel, if you choose. If you don't have anything to sell, you can still create some sort of lead generation funnel. You can do something like a quiz funnel. I love quizzes. A lot of people do too, just because we're naturally curious people. We want to know what result we're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of different options for the resource that you can use to trigger your lead generation funnel. But it's one that I think is really important for the sustainability of your business.
That's such a great tip, because that is what's really important, that lead generation, especially if you want to build your email list, or especially if you're making sales. And so another aspect to sales is a sales page, where you have to put everything together and make it sound like you're talking to your audience. And it's really, I've seen tons of sales pages out there. Some are incredible. Some are too basic to actually make sales. And it's really hard to judge your own sales page, because we're also biased on ourselves, right? And so you're incredible with sales. What are some things that your sales page absolutely needs to be able to convert?
Yeah, so a sales page, for anyone that is not as familiar, is in the plainest form, it's really just a landing page, a standalone or quote unquote orphan landing page that is used to sell a product or a service. And so in the online space, we use this particular sales page to promote an offer, right? So the first thing that's really important to be able to identify with your sales page before you start writing the copy, before you start designing it, is identifying where on the awareness scale your audience is. So are they familiar with your product? Are they brand new to you? Is this a brand new product that you have no proven success stories with? You have no social proof. You haven't had any customers go through it yet. Or is it more of a proven offer that you can, that your audience is more familiar with? And the reason we need to identify this is because we will speak to our reader in different ways. And if you already have a sales page that you are wanting to see if it's going to convert for you, I do have a quiz that we can share with people. It's just lizboer.com/quiz. It literally is taking you through whether or not your sales page will convert. You can check that out there if you do have a sales page already. But after we identify where people are on the awareness scale, is this a brand new offer that no one knows about it yet? Or is this a proven offer that we might have some success stories? We are getting a ton of reviews for, people are loving it. After we identify where people are, then the very first thing that we need is an attention-grabbing headline. That's going to be the first phrase at the very, very top of your page that people see. Now, remember, this is a standalone page, so you're not going to have any navigation buttons. You might have your logo in the top left corner, but you're not going to have any navigation buttons distracting people from moving away from reading your page. So an attention-grabbing headline will speak directly to your reader. It will speak to them in a way that tells them how aware they are of your product or service. So that's why, we first need to identify if people are familiar and they need to be warmed up, or if they already know who we are and what this product is. After that, the whole goal of the sales page is really to help the reader self-qualify and self-identify if this product is right for you or not. And that's really what the copy is meant to do. It's to help them self-qualify, because you are not there walking them through this sales page. They're reading it on their own. So the goal is to have enough copy for them to read, understand, and have a guaranteed yes, click that buy button and bam, they're either inside of your offer or they're ready for your service. And we do that through one, and this is something that a lot of people make a mistake on, and it's our course promise or offer promise. So if you're a service provider, what are you promising people? For me, if I'm creating a done for you sales page for people, I'm promising them that they're going to have a beautifully designed sales page, that their copy is going to be personalized, that they are going to have direct response copy that helps people to know if this product is right for them or not. It's personality driven. So these are things that they can expect if they were to work with us with it on the done for you sales page, right? So our offer promise is just going to be a single statement that we use after we introduce what our offer is. And the reason a lot of people get this wrong is because they're way too vague. People are using phrases and sentences that are honestly really confusing. And I read them even if, when I'm trying to decide if a course that I am interested in, if I want to purchase it. Sometimes if that course promise or offer promise statement is too confusing, I won't purchase because I can't self-qualify if that program or service is going to be right for me based on where I am in my business right now. So that's a really important sentence to focus on before you ever drive traffic to your sales page. And the last point, since we're only covering 3, and there are so many more that we could cover here, but I would say the third most important thing to include in your sales page would be your visual cues. And that's going to be things like stock photos that you might be using or your own personalized photos if you have, nice brand photography. But it's also going to be things like visual mock-ups of your offer or your service. And Haley, the reason why visuals are so important is because just like when we are, for me, it's watching HGTV or scrolling through like a home decor magazine, those visuals of those beautiful homes or perfectly decorated rooms, I can tell right off the bat, like, oh, that would look really pretty in my home, or, oh, I like that. We're triggered to see visuals, start to categorize them, and they help us to start to imagine what it would be like if that particular product, or in this case, service, would be in our lives, how we would use it, how we're going to integrate it into our everyday lives. So for online businesses, if you go to my website today, you will see a lot of visuals with people on their laptops, or maybe on their couch with an iPad or a phone, because for me, I service online business owners, which means they are using their laptops, they're using their phones, they are using their iPads, they're using tech devices to make money and, promote their business. And so by using those images, I'm giving visual cues to people that I service, people in the online space. So if you start to think about your product or service, think about how people would interact with it and the type of people that you want to attract. For health coaches or people in the health and wellness space, you're going to want to use people exercising, or if you have a product where they work out from home, are there images on your sales page that showcase people working out from home? So those types of visual cues can really help people not only to self-qualify, but also to help them to imagine what it would be like using your product or service.
Oh my gosh, those tips are so amazing because when you think of sales, there's so much that goes into it. With these big companies, they know who you are, they know who they're speaking to, and they know why you need it. And so it's the same with your services or your products. You need to know why you're selling it, who you're selling it to, and why they need it. And so I love that. The visual aspect, all of it is so incredible. One thing that I really want to get into is I'm a journalist. I love writing, but a lot of people don't, or they've never written before. And sales is something that like we're putting ourselves out there. We obviously want people to buy it. It's very personal. And so for anyone who has a big disconnect with not being a great writer or not knowing how to write and is nervous to put themselves out there in that aspect, what can they do?
Well, one thing that they can do is definitely remove themselves from their product or service, right? Like we can't identify our business with ourselves because like you said, it's way too personal and all the fear creeps in. Like we got to remove ourselves from our product or service first and foremost. And then after that, we can start writing the copy. And one thing, if you are more timid or you have never written a single piece of copy before, I would say go grab some templates. Find a copywriter that you really admire, maybe start to get inside of some other people's lead generation funnels to see how they write their copy and how the experience that you feel going through and reading their copy. Because that really helps to inspire me. It's definitely something that I do as a sales funnel expert and coach. You better believe that I have thousands of people, entrepreneurs in my inbox every single day because I have opted into their funnels because I want to see what their funnel experience is like. It's really the only way for us to see that type of experience and that type of copy because it's not being used on social media, right? Like it's not being used on their podcast or YouTube channel. It's only inside their inbox. So it's a great way, you can start to download some resources from people that you admire, but a template is a great way to start from scratch. I'm at the point where I really don't start writing any copy from scratch because I've developed scripts that I will use now that are customizable. And there's really no shame in using a template, at least for inspiration, that you can customize and plug and play. So you don't have to start from scratch. Staring at a blinking cursor on a blank screen is intimidating for anyone. And I don't recommend it for someone that is starting out. It's not like a rite of passage to be successful. So find some templates, I would say, and use those for inspiration and or, to start out with. So you at least have something. Something is better than not sending any emails to your subscribers or holding yourself from, having a sales page or having an opt-in page. So you can definitely at least get going and then you can learn and adapt from there.
Oh my gosh, that just made me think about, this is so nerdy and kind of off topic, but still on topic. That SpongeBob episode where he's trying to write his article or his essay or something, and he spends so long writing it, and all it is like a fancy T of the word the. And that's just kind of like how it feels when we're writing and don't have any vision in front of us. One thing that you made me think of, especially when it comes to copy, is when you're writing your resume. Okay, we've all done resumes. We want to use the words that the business is using or the company is using. So at least for me, when I was using my resume a lot, I would look at the job offer and literally copy and paste some of the exact words they were using into my resume. And it's the same with a sales page, right? You want to use the words that your ideal person is using, so it seems like you're talking directly to them. That way it makes it personal for you, makes it personal for them, and they just feel very attached to you.
Yeah, that's such a good example. I love the SpongeBob reference.
Such a good episode.
Yeah. And something else that I thought of while you were sharing that is if you start to think about, if you get stuck along the way writing your copy for your sales page, I would say just take a step back and think about the flow that you want someone to go through from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, because the goal is to have them, read through the majority of the page and either contact you or purchase from you at that point. And so if you think about the flow of your page and how you're continuing to share stories or grab their attention with, copy that they might use, like pain points that they might be having or desires that they might be looking for, you can archetype your sales page in a way that helps them to continue to read. Think about like a Netflix series or a show that you love. They're opening and closing story loops with different phrases to get you to move on to the next episode, to click that next episode button. And if you can kind of think about your sales page in a similar way, each section, think about it as its own section, and then what happens as they move down the page. And so that might help you write some copy that will be more personalized to your user and help to keep them on the page longer.
And you just get better and better at it as you go along. I'm sure even if for you, an expert in this, your first sales page versus your sales pages now are so much more detailed, so much better, and reach your audience more. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's always a craft that you continue to tweak, optimize, and make better. You're really not going to see a single sales page in the exact same phrasing, design, images that they used probably more than once. Because as we start to sell, we start to learn more about our audience. We start to understand phrases that click with them, that they will gravitate towards, and they start to become more aware of your products and services. So your sales page can adapt to your business as you grow. And so that's why I kind of said, start with a template if you have to and you aren't as familiar, because it's a great way to just get the ball rolling, get you started, and you don't have to feel like you have to build this whole long sales page, on your own, copy from scratch and that type of thing, because it can be overwhelming. So grab the template and, get started, and then you'll learn as you go.
Reach out to Liz. She has so much value and so many things on her website that she can teach you exactly how to do this. And so I would love if you could share who you work with and how people can find you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. So I primarily work with online entrepreneurs, helping people from the first stages of launching their course to people that have proven offers. So bread and butter is creating a complete sales funnel from your sales page to all of the emails in between that you need to warm up your audience, get them to love you, trust you, and buy from you. So all of those emails come into play. We also manage paid traffic for people inside of their funnels, so Facebook and Instagram ads, and really helping people to nurture their audience, or writing their email copy, weekly copy for them, whether that be for a blog post or a podcast. Really just starting to warm up your audience so that you become the go-to expert and authority in your niche. Primarily work with women entrepreneurs. I love working with female-owned businesses and teams. You can find me mostly on Instagram, where I will share lessons, podcast episodes, and tips and tricks at lizboer_com. My website is lizboer.com, LIZBOER.com. And if you do have a sales page and you're wondering if it will convert, you can check out the quiz at lizboer.com/quiz.
Awesome. And how can people find your podcast too?
Oh yeah, it's called Marketing to Millions. On the website, you can find the old show notes under the blog navigation, or you can just go to lizboer.com/podcast. and all of the episodes will populate there. Or you can find us anywhere that you love to listen to a podcast. We're pretty much on every player at this point. So yeah, tune in and let me know what you think.
Awesome. Well, I will put all of those in the show notes. And I love to end every single episode off with you sharing 3 tips for the audience to do today, 3 actionable tips that they can get started with.
Oh, all right. So caught me off guard. 3 tips. One is set up one automated workflow, even if that is just with one single email inside of it. You can start to see the power of automation. And then another thing that I would say is start to write down your audience's primary pain points and desires. This is a great exercise. You can literally just do it on a spreadsheet or with pen and paper. 2 columns, you can start to write like, what are my audience's biggest pains, from, they don't like mowing the grass, to they don't know anything about email marketing, to they want to start a business, to they want to leave a 9-to-5. Anything that they have pulling on their heart, think about those things that keep them up at night. And then the other side of that column would be things that they desire, their hopes and dreams for their future self. Write down those, maybe start with 7, because those are a great way to incorporate into your email copy, on your sales pages, and throughout your entire marketing campaign. And I guess number 3, the last thing that I would say is be consistent. So if you're just starting out, you're just starting on social, you're just starting with your email copy, you're just starting to get some clients, the best thing that you can do to set yourself up to scale is be consistent. So pick one day a week or every other week that you're going to email your subscribers. Pick, a couple days throughout the week that you might be posting on social, and stick to that schedule as best you can. This is where automation comes into play, because you don't have to do it manually, but you can be consistent on autopilot if you set a schedule and, schedule things to post. But consistency will be honestly your best friend. People will begin to learn that they can rely on you to hear from you on that specific day or time of the week, and they will start to show up for you too.
Awesome. Those are such good tips. Consistent on autopilot. I love that. I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was so much fun. Check out Liz in the show notes. Go connect with her. She's amazing. Tons of resources on her website. So I hope you guys go and look at that. And it was so much fun talking to you, Liz.
Thanks, Haley.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.